Now, in this video, I'm going to be telling you the secret of increasing marks in the APV related questions. Now, what I would do in this section, I would like to take the quotes directly from the latest AFM examiner's report, telling you what to do and what should not be done. Before we move any further, let's recap on what do I mean by net present value and APV adjusted present value. Now, net present value, if we do the calculation, we need three elements. Number of years, for example, now, which means year 0, 1 and 2. And then we estimate the future cash flows. So for example, I will get 100 in year 1, and I will get 200 at the end of year 2, but I will need to spend 50 now. And then we discount at usually the weighted average cost of capital, which not only includes the business risks of a company, so in other words, the risks that you generate into revenue and incurring costs, and also it will include the financial risk of a company, for example, the level of debt that you undertaken. So suppose that the WACC is 10%. So if that's the case, then I would like to use 1, divide this into 1 plus 10%, which means 1.1 for the power of number of years, which means 0 in this case. And at the end of year 1, 1 over 1.1 for the power of 1. At the end of year 2, 1 over 1 plus 10% for a power of 2. And then we simply multiply these all together, and that will give me the present value. And then we plot them all together, and that would be the NPV. And that's it. However, the biggest problem about the NPV method is that it treated the operating cash flows, which means something to do with the revenue costs, and the financing cash flows, for example, the interests, mixing them all together. So this is why that would be a problem of NPV. And of course, what APV does instead, APV, the idea would be quite straightforward. We simply divide the cash flows into the operating cash flows, which only reflects the business risk of the company, and then the cash flows related to the financing part, which means the financing effects of the cash flows, which only reflects the financial risk. And of course, when we discount the operating cash flows, we need to use the cost of equity ungeared. And I will tell you how in a second. For financing cash flows, so there will be a choice here. Either you can discount it at the risk-free rate, taking the yield from a government security. Alternatively, we will need to discount at the pre-tax cost of debt, which means the borrowing rate, of a business. So you will need to watch out in any given question that where not the examining team specifies that you have to use the pre-tax cost of debt to do that. Now, after reviewing the basic idea about the APV, it seems to be very straightforward. What do you think? Well, in fact, that a lot of students performed poorly in this type of question in the actual exam. Now, there are 4 issues highlighted by the ACCA examining team for the AFM related to APV. Let's see the quote, on the right-hand side. The examining team said that the issue number 1, a lot of students simply treated NPV equals to APV, but in fact it's not correct. Well, we can see the hint from student's answer that if student using WACC, to discount both of the operating cash flows and the cash flows related to the finance part, they simply mistreated the NPV equaling to APV method. Right, so this is why what we need to watch out for is that we always need to think about whether or not we will need to use the Modigliani and Miller proposition number 2 formula given by ACCA to work out the KEI here to avoid this trap. Now, another issue highlighted by the examining team is that when we calculate the cost of equity and geared, a lot of students did not know that we will need to use the asset beta formula. Well, Steve, you've said that we need to use the M&M proposition number 2 formula given by ACCA, but now we've got another formula. So I would say that according to the probability that the cost of equity and gears calculation is tested, it's very likely that you will need to use the asset beta formula rather than the M&M proposition number 2. So this formula again is given by the ACCA in the formula sheet. Now, in your calculation, we directly and we simply assume that there will be no debt beta. You don't really have to say it in your exam. Some students said that, but that's a waste of time. What we would do is to directly insert the diversified business values, including their value of equity, value of debt and tax rate, and their equity beta. So then we can work out that asset beta, which only reflects the business risk. And then we slot that into a CAPM formula to calculate the cost of equity and geared. I know that sounds a bit scary and complicated, but no worries, my course will certainly help, okay? And I created a question to summarize all these issues all together into one single question. So learn that and you will achieve full marks in the exam to save you time. Now, issue number 3. A lot of students failed to calculate correctly on the tax shield on interest. There are a couple of issues that you can read and directly from the examiner's report. Most likely, a lot of students simply used, for example, the annuity factor to calculate the tax shield on interest. But some of them may not have spotted this. They simply treated that the tax saving on interests, because you pay interest, because you take out a loan and you pay interests, and the profit will reduce, and then you can save tax. A lot of students simply treated that as 1 year tax saving on interest, and that's incorrect. Now, my approach in the AFM is different. I would rather tell my students just ignore the annuity formula that you've learned. What I would do is to insert 3 elements in there. For example, here is my pro forma answer that I've included in my platinum question. The number of years relevant cash flow, so for example, related to a tax saving, mixing that into subsidy, and then discount rate. So all these 3 things would directly give you full marks if you slot that cash flow in the right timing. Now, right timing is so important, so make sure that you watch out. Usually, this adjustment accounts for 4 to 5 marks. I would say that it's relatively straightforward adjustment. If you lose marks or did not perform it correctly in terms of the calculation, losing 4 to 5 is not good. The final issue related to APV, according to the examiner's report, that a lot of students failed to justify when should we use APV. Alternatively, the weakness of the APV method. I would say that if your project, you're undertaking, changing the financial risk, which means highly geared project, you will need to take out a additional loan. So if that's the case, then APV is suitable. But a lot of students said that the reason why we choose APV was because NPV ignores the debt financing benefit. Well, this is incorrect. The reason is, if you can see in my previous pro forma, when we calculate the net present value of a given project, we discount cash flows at the WACC. Now, the WACC itself has considered the financing effect already. However, we can't say that we ignore the debt financing benefit. The reason is, when we are calculating, for example, the NPV, the WACC should be the after-tax WACC. So that means it has considered the debt financing benefit. So make sure that you always tell the examining team when you are using APV that there's a choice of a discount rate. As we've seen before, either discount at risk-free rate or the pre-tax borrowing rate. A lot of students fail to do this, and that's why they fail this paper, because they've lost a lot of hidden marks, or we can call it as the easy marks. Now, one secret I would like to share with you regarding your AFM exam, possibly increase your mark by 1, turning from 49 marginal failed to a passing mark of 50, is that in any given NPV or APV questions, the recommendation that you need to make, you will have to make it, is that whether or not we should accept that project. Now, if you're saying the first half of the sentence, the project should be accepted given APV is positive, sorry, no marks for that. You will need to say, comma, this means that shareholders' wealth will increase if a project is undertaken. With the second half of the sentence, you will get 1 mark on that. So make sure that's the secret. A lot of students fail this paper because the passing rate around about 30 to 40%, which means the 60% students failed the AFM. A lot of them marginal failed, simply be 46, 47, 48, 49. So you will need to watch out for the easy marks there. Now, here is the summary of what I mentioned from the latest AFM examiners report. About 4 issues. 1, 2, 3, and 4. About the APV. Mixing NPV with APV. Wrongly applies the asset beta formula. Not calculating a tax shield on the interest correctly. Not advising the suitability on that. Remember, the AFM exam, we cannot use the freestyle approach. We will need to apply exam technique to gain lots of easy marks, otherwise you will lose lots of marks in this paper.
APC, accounting for your future.